Good evening, and welcome back to Mystery Rift. I am David Paulides. We are going deep tonight, examining the disturbing truth behind disappearances in our wildlands. The terrifying reality that some people, even the most prepared, simply vanish. We've all seen the news reports, the frantic searches, the heartbroken families, the relentless pursuit for a single defining clue in the mud. A hunter goes out into the woods, a place they know intimately, and they simply cease to exist. This is the missing 411 paradox. These are not isolated incidents of bad luck or poor planning. They are chilling threads in a consistent, undeniable pattern that stretches across the globe. A pattern I've spent years documenting under the banner of Missing 411. Tonight, we are looking at 5 specific cases of highly experienced outdoorsmen, seasoned hunters, who stepped across an invisible threshold and never returned. They left behind clues that defy all conventional logic. Clues that should never exist, confounding search and rescue teams across the continent. What forces are truly at work in our wilderness that can snatch a person with such surgical precision? What kind of anomaly exists at the edges of our civilization, waiting for the unprepared, or perhaps the perfectly prepared? Let's dive into the inexplicable. We begin on the mighty Mississippi River in December 2020 with the disappearance of Zeb Hughes, 21, and Gunnar Palmer, 16. These young men were not novices. They were experienced duck hunters, intimately familiar with the river's cold, unpredictable nature. They launched from Latorno Landing for what should have been a routine day. The Mississippi is a formidable, almost merciless environment, 100 feet deep with treacherous currents, capable of humbling even the most experienced riverman. Yet, conditions were fair that morning. But the next day, searchers found their boat capsized. A tragic sight, but standard. The mystery begins here. Everything was recovered, the clothing, the gear, the life vests, but no Zeb, no Gunnar, and remarkably, the duck dog they brought with them was also gone. How could 2 agile young men, dressed for the elements, disappear so utterly without any sign of a struggle, a body, or a life jacket miles downstream? The official assumption leaned heavily toward an accident, but the sheriff himself noted the depth and the current, suggesting the river swallowed them completely, or maybe they never entered the water at all. For 2 people and an animal to vanish, leaving all functional gear near the capsized vessel, suggests that their final moments defy explanation. Next, we travel north to the unforgiving, rugged tundra of northern Quebec, Canada. In September 2003, we look at James P. Rambone Jr., 51, an expert hunter who was on what his girlfriend called the trip of his life, an unguided caribou hunt in one of the most remote regions on Earth. James separated from his 3 friends, chasing a large bull caribou. His failure to return wasn't just a concern, it was an aberration from his decades of training and experience. The others eventually found the caribou carcass, and near it, they found James's fluorescent orange vest and his camera. An experienced hunter would never willingly shed his primary visibility item in the vast, empty tundra, especially while tracking game or preparing a kill. The vest was there, but his high-powered hunting rifle was gone. There was no clothing scrap, no evidence that a bear or a wolf was involved. As James's girlfriend stated, bears and wolves don't eat clothing and wouldn't have eaten his gun. This suggests an intelligence at work, someone or something that cleaned up the scene. Could an epileptic seizure have caused amnesia? Possible. But the deliberate, clean removal of his vest near the kill site, while leaving the camera, it suggests the hunter had been singled out, and the process was surgical. Case number 3 takes us to the vast. Lonely Missouri River breaks in Montana, November 2003. We investigate the vanishing of Alan Tye, 52, who was vacationing to hunt mule deer and collect geological specimens in the extensive wilderness. The first sign of trouble. He missed his scheduled motel checkout. 2 days later, authorities were alerted to a situation that quickly became bewildering. An aircraft search located his abandoned truck in a remote area along the Missouri River. The clues found inside the truck are classic. Confounding missing 411 paradoxes. Searchers found his empty rifle case and, most bizarrely, his boots, placed neatly side by side as if he had deliberately untied them and stepped out before heading into the wild. Why would a man, an avid outdoorsman in cold November, venture into that rugged, rocky terrain without his boots? It is utterly nonsensical. Medically and logistically, was he fleeing something with such panic that he tore off his footwear? Or was something responsible for removing his boots and placing them in a chilling, deliberate display for searchers to find? Alan Tye was declared legally dead years later. Like so many others in these files, he was swallowed whole by the land, leaving behind a profound and disturbing message in those empty boots. Moving on to Case File 2, in October 2004, on Trask Mountain in Oregon, we look at Jeremy Childress, 31, who was elk hunting with his co-worker Shane Louie and Shane's son. After a successful day, they drove down the mountain for firewood. That's when the environment shifted dramatically and violently. A dense, sudden fog, often a signature element in these cases, rolled in, completely disorienting the trio. It became a thick, white, isolating wall. Jeremy, convinced the camp was nearby, decided to hike ahead alone to confirm its location. He simply melted into the thick white mist, dissolving before their very eyes. The ensuing search found only a discarded wrapper from his favorite brand of gum, a tiny, insignificant clue in a massive, overwhelming search zone. But the truly unsettling detail is this. A witness claimed to have heard 3 shots fired in rapid succession that evening, the international distress signal for help. Were those shots fired by Jeremy? A final, desperate plea that his friends, only a short distance away, mysteriously did not hear through the oppressive fog. And if he fired an SOS, where did the person firing those shots vanish to? The fog, in this case, acted as more than just weather. It was a perfect silent hunting blind. Our final and perhaps most peculiar case belongs to Barnett Barry Zeldin, 74, an experienced hunter and proven survivalist in New Jersey. He disappeared on October 7th, 2013, near the Warren Grove Recreation Area after telling his wife, Janet, he was going to check a deer stand. The plan was short and simple. 4 days later, his 1,992 Chevy Blazer was found. The scene was perfectly, disturbingly staged for a short absence. The keys were in the ignition, the windows were rolled down, and his cell phone was left on the dashboard. And waiting patiently inside was his beloved dog, Taffy. Having survived the 4 days alone by eating the corn and molasses meant for the deer, Barry loved that dog. His family insisted he would never have left her alone for long. His wife speculated he must have told her to stay put. The initial thought was a medical emergency, a heart attack or stroke. But even with that assumption, why no trace of his body, his clothing, his hat, or any of his belongings anywhere? This case perfectly encapsulates the missing 411 profile, the highly experienced person, the abrupt and voluntary cessation of activity, the dog left behind, and the total lack of forensic evidence despite extensive searches. It is as if In the split second he stepped away from his truck, an unseen mechanism engaged, and he was simply no longer here. We have looked at 5 cases tonight, but there are thousands of others that fit this exact chilling pattern in uncanny detail. The experienced hunter, the close proximity to water, caves, or large granite formations, the sudden, inexplicable shedding of vital gear, the boots, the vest, the rifle, and the absolute, total failure of trained search dogs to pick up a meaningful scent. They act confused, as if the person's biological trail instantly stops. What do these cases collectively suggest? They suggest something more than human error, more than a string of unbelievable coincidences in the woods. The common denominator is the wilderness itself, but acting not as an unpredictable force, but as a deliberate, transient mechanism. I have studied thousands of these reports. One hypothesis that constantly surfaces involves the concept of a dimensional rift, or a brief, localized energy transfer. Could certain remote locations, especially those with geological anomalies, like high concentrations of granite or quartz, possess a unique energy that is capable of briefly bending or disrupting our own physical reality, perhaps for a fraction of a second? The victim steps through a doorway that is open just long enough to admit a physical body, only to snap shut behind them forever. They are gone, instantly, silently, leaving behind only the boots they were wearing, the dog they loved, and a profound, chilling silence that screams the truth we can't accept. The official files call these unsolved. I call them a pattern demanding immediate answers. What do you think happened to these experienced hunters? Was it an unprecedented attack, a localized supernatural anomaly, or something that modern science must finally acknowledge? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you have a case that fits the missing 411 profile, please reach out. The only way we solve this profound mystery is by documenting the evidence and recognizing the pattern. For Mystery Rift, I'm David Paulides. Until next time, be safe out there and watch where you step.